What's your top, wow, that actually worked, moment? Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. So we've kind of talked about life hacks before, but I feel like these are more like super life hacks that are also just kind of weird and lucky. I went to check into a hotel, and I asked him if there was a parking fee. He replied with, yes, it's $15 a night. I asked, any chance you could waive it? He replied with, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Saved me 60 bucks. Yeah, hotels can be really weird. It's like the people at the front desk seems to have a lot of power over what they can just give you for free. I met a girl in Thailand who bragged about her family and how her dad is a record exec. She said if I ever dropped their name in a BA lounge, then they would let me in. I was in London 2 years later at the airport. I asked them to look up the name at the lounge, and they let me right in. Yeah, those are the ones that you're usually just like, yeah, they're probably full of crap. I went to a music festival a few years ago with a bunch of friends who only paid for the campsite, but not for the festival itself. I did pay for the festival and had my wristband on, but I joined my friends trying to sneak in just for the fun of it. We walked around in the nearby fields to end up somewhere at the backstage, hiding behind a tent. The backstage was separated from the festival with a pop-up fence. They usually have an entrance with a security guard somewhere, but we couldn't immediately locate it, so I came up with an idea. Since I had my legit wristband on, I had nothing to lose, so I just pretended to be really drunk, having stumbled into the backstage by accident while trying to find a place to pee. As soon as I left our hiding spot, someone noticed me, and I just went, where the heck is the entrance here? And the backstage guy just showed me how to get back onto the festival terrain. I stumbled through the opening in the fence, and as soon as the guy was out of sight, my friends followed. My little piece of acting got my 5 friends a free festival day that day. It still amazes me. You know, I've never actually been to a music festival. I've never really seen one that looked that enticing. When I was about 11, and computer monitors were all just becoming flat screens, we bought a crappy little LCD. Just my luck. The plug didn't have a third pin and short-circuited within weeks of getting it. The monitor colors were all messed up, flickering beyond distorted, random colors, and outright all becoming one solid color then going back. This happened momentarily every few minutes. My parents refused to buy me a new one because I broke my new monitor. It wasn't my fault. So, being the bored kid I was, I just did my best to use it anyway. I remember it so very clearly. I was playing Warrock, and the screen blacked out right before a firefight and got me killed. I was like, alright, if my parents won't buy me a new one since this one is half working, so I'll just break it completely. Without a second thought, I punched it in the center right there and then. This fixed the monitor. There was a discoloring around where I punched it and a line through the middle, but no more random colors, no more flickering. A few years later, I got a new monitor and my dad was going to take my old one. I moved it from my computer to his, and when I first set it up, the colors were all messed up. I told him that I knew how to fix it. I punched it again, expecting it to break. They all looked at me like I was insane and asked what the heck I was doing. It worked. It still works. 12 years and he's been using the same monitor with the line going through it where I punched it. Wow, now that is pretty impressive. Maybe that's what those streamers are trying to do when they get really angry. So I had a really tough math problem in calc I didn't know the answer to. Something that used hip-hop or rap sales as a reference. I didn't know it, ran out of time, and it was the last question on the assignment. So I wrote, rap died in 1996 with Tupac. She marked it right, obviously out of oversight, but my buddy beside me tried really hard to answer it, and got the wrong answer, and the professor marked him incorrect. He was flabbergasted. Yeah, unfortunately I always tried the method of just writing some kind of joke and hoping that you can make the teacher laugh, but I always got them wrong. So when my grandmother was passing away, I drove up to the small Texas town she lived in to tend to her affairs and arrange her funeral. Like the tough warrior woman she was, she hung in there for longer than the doctors expected. I'm not complaining. It gave me a few extra days to talk to her and tell her how much I loved her, and listen to her talk with the little energy she had. Because of that, I had burned through my clean clothes and needed to do some laundry. Problem is, as I was staying in my grandfather's home and no one had lived there for a while, there was no detergent. As I was stepping out the door to head to the store, I remembered my grandmother kept a huge coupon binder behind the dinner table. It was a hobby for her, clipping and sorting coupons for crap she'd never buy. So I opened the cover right there and go to the first page. There's a pocket absolutely brimming with Tide coupons. I'm sure 90% of them were expired, but I grabbed the wad and left. I bypass Walmart and head to the only grocery store in town, the small squatty dump of a building which looks like a relic from the 60s. I go in, grab the detergent, and head to the counter. There's no one in line, and the cashier, a homely, stick-thin, red-headed girl, looks like she's gonna die from boredom. This it? That's it. Oh, hang on, I have these coupons. I think most of them might be expired, but... And with that, she takes the wad of coupons and starts scanning them one at a time. That's alright, my manager says as long as they scan, we can take them. Oh, alright, thank you, but I only have 1 box of detergent. I know. See, usually accept 3 of the same coupon, but seeing as it's a double your savings Saturday, I can run them twice. Each time she swipes the coupon, the register chirps pleasantly. Then, after scanning coupons for what seemed to be 10 solid minutes, she hits the button and -9.85 flickers across the dingy LED display. Uh-oh, looks like you owe me money. I know, just hang on a minute and I'll get it. You got 15 cents on you so I can make it an even 10? Are you serious? You're gonna pay me to take a box of laundry detergent off your hands? Well, yeah, that's why you brought all them coupons, right? And that's the story of how a store paid me $10 to take a box of laundry detergent off their hands. See, it's a good thing you walked right past Walmart. They wouldn't have done that. So the fans on my old MacBook had stopped working. I searched on YouTube for a fix and found a video that said, sometimes there can be lint or dust clogging up the spinning mechanisms. A good thumping can get them back in order. The guy in the video proceeded to hammer the computer with his fists, and the fans came back on. I shrugged, gave it a shot, and to my surprise, they hummed back to life and I was back in business. Still can't believe it. Well, when Apple doesn't allow you to open half their devices, you gotta find some way to fix things. After hours of trying to repair a broken digital camera, I went to throw it away. I shrugged and dropped it on the linoleum. Heard a horrible crack. The motor turned and made a jackhammer sound before it clicked and became a smooth hum. The camera worked after that. Man, what is with all these stories of people's electronics coming back to life after beating them? Maybe you just need to discipline them for being lazy. I repair slot machines for a living. One was frozen in game state with well over $1,000 on it. All the doors were closed, no jams in the dollar acceptor or the voucher printer. All the lights were off and some software just stopped mid-spin. I think the game finally died and we'd need to reimburse the guests for their lost money, which can take a while if it's a ton of money like this. The guest jokingly asked if it just needed its butt kicked to work again, and I figured that since the game is old and durable, I'll indulge him. I kicked it and the game came right back up, and the guest proceeded to win another $500 or so from that spin. The game was good for the rest of the day too, no errors or anything. I played it off as gracefully as I could, but I think that was my life's peak, and I'll never look that freaking cool to anybody ever again. Of course, that had to follow right after my last comment. That doesn't even sound like bringing electronics back from, like, kicking it. That sounds more like this guy just had some super luck that day. And I had to get to a mountaintop where one of our towers were located to perform some maintenance. I had to ride a snowmobile all the way up there, and when I got up there, I realized I'd forgotten the keys to the enclosure. Not to be defeated, I tried to pick the lock, and I got it to open after about 20 minutes of trying. Yay, I didn't have to quit for the day, and got the work done. Yeah, it sucks when you drive a long way and then realize you forgot the one thing you needed to do when you got there. So I was 12 and didn't know how to swim. I wound up in the deep end of a pool with dozens of other people who didn't realize I disappeared underwater. I struggled for a second and then remembered something my childhood friend told me. All you have to do to float is bend over in water. I never had the guts to try when she told me, but I was about to die, so I just let my body relax, and bent over in the water by my waist and floated to the surface, alive. I couldn't believe it was as simple as she said. Yeah, that is weird, but I guess that is kinda just like the corpse pose in the pool. So back in the 80s, my family had no phone, and as a teenager, I had to call my friends from a payphone. Long girly calls cost me a fortune. These were the old dial phones. You had to put your money in and then it allowed you to dial. And I noticed that when I dialed a particular digit, there were a corresponding number of blip sounds in the earpiece. I also noted that when I depressed the button, which the receiver sat on the end, was the same tone. So I tried hitting that button the amount of times for each digit of my friend's telephone number. So like I'd hit the button 6 times, pause and 6 times, pause and 5 times, and so on. That allowed me to bypass putting in the money and make free calls. Early hacking. You know, I don't really know enough about payphones to understand this one very well, but I mean, you got something free that you shouldn't have, so good on you. My friend and I were in community college, and Halo 3 just came out. We had papers due for our English class the next morning, which did not get done. When the teacher asked us why we weren't done, I just told her we were up all night playing Xbox, in front of the whole class. She laughed, appreciated the honesty, and let us turn it in late since we didn't lie. Oh man, this reminds me of an engineering class in high school. For whatever reason, me and my 2 friends in this engineering class, we didn't really do much. We just kind of like were there. We were kind of friends with the teacher, and he was so lenient on us all the time. And then the rest of the class were like working their butts off, and teacher was just yelling at them all the time. Like my friend would just skip class half the time, and one time the teacher just walks up to him and he's just like, "Now, what caused you to miss my class yesterday?" And he's just like, impulse. And the teacher just laughs and walks away. Man, sometimes I miss high school. I decided on a whim to make some peanut sauce. Peanut butter, soy sauce, a little water, and it was looking close but kind of clotting. When I stopped stirring, randomly remember learning that vanilla goes in cookies and stuff because it helps stuff mix. So I added a dash of vanilla, and the sauce instantly comes together. I felt like a mad genius. It's like, okay, congrats, you made peanut sauce, but that sounds awful. This was a very long time ago. I needed a C+ to graduate and didn't attend the final. So I went in and just told him I wanted a B- to graduate, hoping he would let me retake it, or at least negotiate to the point where I could make it a C+. So he tells me, sure, have a great summer. See, just make friends with the teachers. I also remember having like a psychology class once, where like halfway through I was just like, you know, I'm not really enjoying this anymore, and I don't even need the credit, so I'm just like, I'll join in on the class discussions, but I'm just going to stop doing the work, because I don't need to pass. And then at the end of the semester, the teacher was just like, hey, you have a 25% in this class, how can I make you pass? I'm like, don't worry about it, just let me fail, I don't need the credit. And then she just like gave me a bunch of random points on assignments to bump me up to a D-. I was like, oh, well, thanks, I guess. Man, all these stories are making it sound like I was just a complete slack-off in high school. Don't worry, guys, those were the exceptions. I noticed an error on our website that would affect customers. I emailed the web team about it, thinking they'd ignore it until something higher up brought it to their attention. They read it, implemented changes, and CC'd my director to thank me for the input. Wow, I didn't think something like that would ever work. The first time my wife and I went out to eat with our new baby, she was sitting in the baby seat next to the table and started crying. I picked up the salt shaker and set it right in front of him and said, "Watch this." And he looked at the salt and stopped crying. Sometimes little kids just need a good hypnotizing. I got a free watch offer from a decent company I'd bought from before, but you had to spend over $300. I added 4 of the free watches, which were usually $75 into the cart, which registered as $300. I went to checkout and a green minus $300 appeared in the bill. Added to my shipping address, and 2 weeks later they came. Yeah, the online order ones are the best, where you're like, there's no way it's actually that cheap, or there's no way it's this good of a deal. And you're like, well, I'll buy it and see what happens. And then once it's in your presence, you're like, huh, I was flying somewhere. After everyone else was boarding, I went up to the gate agent and asked about being upgraded to first class. After a bunch of typing on her computer, she said sure, and asked me how I could pay for it. I said, by asking nicely? To my amazement, she gave me a boarding pass for my new first class seat. Man, airline workers are just like flying hotel workers. Trying to unclog a toilet without a plunger, I poured some fabric softener in there just to see if it would help, and it cleared it right up almost immediately. A little kid I was babysitting put a ton of toilet paper in and clogged it. I couldn't find the plunger, and I figured maybe it would soften the paper up and help clear the block. As I remembered hearing about the dish soap helping break down the fats and poop and helping to clear clogs. I poured it in, walked away and put the softener back, and walked back to the bathroom to hear a large glug and a totally clear toilet. Maybe you just gotta lube up the toilet. So my sister and I went to a show a while after she'd been going through some really rough times. I wrote the band a letter about her and asked one of the merch guys if he could deliver it to them, hoping they could just give her a shout out during the set or something. About 20 minutes later, I got a phone call from the band's manager saying to go to the side of the stage between the opener and the headliner, and we got to watch the whole show from the side of the stage, and they gave us a VIP meet and greet pass. The bassist came up, and we learned that he was the one who pushed for us to get what we got. He was so nice about everything, and he gave my sister a hug and posed for a photo with her. Yeah, some bands are pretty cool, but I feel like the whole writing into a band for any kind of request is such a South Park thing to do. The entire grade went on a field trip to a bowling/arcade place to celebrate completing middle school. I was at a claw machine, and I asked my friend to look for the claw from the side to see if it was lined up with the toy I wanted. Just then, a boy from another class walked up and said to me, "You know those are a scam, right?" I was flustered and hit the button to lower the claw without even waiting for my friend to tell me if it was lined up properly. The claw came back up with 2 toys and dropped them in the collection box. The boy was silent for a moment before saying, "That was actually pretty good," and walked away. I'll never be so cool again in my entire life. Yeah, I feel like you have a higher chance of winning a lottery on a slot machine than you do of winning one of those crane games. So I half ran a stop sign that got ran a lot. A cop pulled me over. By half ran, I mean I was doing a California slow roll through, and halfway through I saw the cop and stopped. He walks up, asked me if I knew I ran the stop sign. I said yes. Then, I don't know why, but I asked, "May I have your mercy?" He takes a step back, looks a little perplexed, runs my license, comes back and just said, "Today I am merciful. Stop running stop signs." Let off with a warning. Man, I've heard so many ways of people getting out of tickets. My favorite one is "Did you know that you were going 100 miles an hour?" And you respond with, "Man, you should see how fast I could go if I was really trying." That kind of thing usually only works if you're driving like a Ferrari. So a friend's dad a couple years ago has an old Windows 2000 computer with a dead hard drive. Normally this wouldn't be an issue as it's an old machine, just get a new one. But unfortunately, this hard drive had the only backup copy of some very important family pictures, since the external hard drive they kept important file backups on died a few weeks prior. I went through every troubleshooting step I could think of in order to recover the data, and nothing. As far as I could tell, the drive was completely shot. So in one last desperate attempt, I blew on the connectors and the ports like I was trying to get my NES cartridge to work. I flicked the drive with my finger and gave it a small dramatic speech about needing it to stay alive for the family. The freaking thing booted, stayed long enough for me to grab the files, and then went dead. That's computer magic for ya. My terrible sleep pattern is linked to my mental health. A few months ago, I told myself I have to be in bed by 10 and not to touch my phone. I could stay awake and fantasize or stare at the ceiling as long as I wanted, but I had to be in bed. And it worked? I've been slipping the past few weeks, but it did wonders for my mental health. Even went from not leaving my room to getting a part-time volunteer position, and I'm doing good at it. Yeah, sometimes a little self-control can go a long way. I'm a straight dude with a lot of gay friends. One of them jokingly refers to me as King of the Gays. I was visiting some friends in another city a few weeks ago, and we were trying to go into a gay bar, but the doorman tells me there's a cover charge. I, being drunk, blurted out, "But I'm King of the Gays." And he laughed and let me in. Well, hopefully your night turned out okay. So my buddy was having a bad weekend, and we were next day buzzed at our college cafeteria. We load up on tater tots and pizza, and other state school level brunch items. He's bumming, so I say, "Hey man, see her over there? Cute, right?" "Sure." "Okay, well I'm gonna go hit on her. Be back in a sec." I have no game with women. I am nothing to look at. I smell like Jagger and Marlboro Lights. I think I was wearing sweatpants and a button-up shirt, for some freaking reason. I'm not convinced I had ever hit on anyone before. It isn't me. The entire premise was she would throw her drink in my face or be horrified, and I would walk away laughing, and my buddy would get a laugh out of my hilarious public rejection. Anyway, when I got there, I didn't know what to do, so we just talked. I sort of knew the girl she was with, I sort of addressed her, and then flirted with her cute blonde friend. Nothing happened, I walked back to my table. Anyway, cute blonde friend and I had a class that semester, and with the ice broken, I just talked to her like a non-stupid person. We have been married a decade now and have 2 kids. It was 1000% supposed to be a joke. So it didn't work, but I mean, it sort of worked. Hey man, girls aren't always as scary as they seem. You'd be surprised how often it can work out if you just talk to them. But anyways, those are all of the weird life hack stories that I've found for today. I feel like I learned a lot more from this video than that life hack video that I did like a week ago. But yeah, anyways, you know, I've been posting a lot of cat videos lately, but I never get to share any cat pictures. So I'm just gonna show you a bunch of pictures tonight. So thanks for watching.